Parasites are weird, often horrifying, but always fascinating. There is a flatworm, for example, that infects snails, causing pulses of color to rise up their eye stalks, making them more inviting to their predators. There is toxoplasmosis, which makes rats less afraid of their predators, cats.
Parasites like these have evolved over hundreds of millions of years, developing clever ways to infect their hosts and promote the completion of their life cycles, which often requires their hosts being eaten. And some parasites seem to completely take over control of their hosts.
There's a fungus, Cordyceps, that infects ants, changing their behavior as if by mind control. This is so weird that even the researchers who work on these ants call them zombie ants.
Parasitic fungi sound rare and exotic, but they are actually quite common in the wild. There are over 150,000 species of fungi described by science, and around 30% of them are parasitic. Like many fungi, Cordyceps reproduces by making a fruiting body, which is what mushrooms do. What makes it special is how it manipulates ants to promote its own reproductive success.
Now, what happens and why? The ants get infected by a spore.
As the fungus grows inside the ant, it extends to the brain where it secretes chemicals that interfere with the ant's behavior. It can even directly control the ant's muscles.
After a few weeks, it emerges from its nest, climbs around the forest floor, and finds a stalk that goes up into the air. It climbs up the stalk, pinches on with its mandibles, and waits to die.
The jaws bite on so hard it's referred to as a death grip. The fungus grows out of the ant to bind the body onto the plant and even releases antimicrobial compounds to stop the corpse from rotting.
Because when it dies, the fungus emerges from its exoskeleton, sending spores out into the wind to infect yet more ants. This is a fascinating system.
Cordyceps is the inspiration behind the successful game series and TV adaptation The Last of Us, where humans are turned into fungal zombies. Now, that's a very dramatically imagined scenario, but it is impressive how effectively Cordyceps can manipulate at least ants. And a team of researchers working in the Amazonian jungle set out to discover the extent of the fungi's mind control powers.
They knew that unlike many fungi, which have to live in the dark, like underneath a leaf litter or in the back of my cupboard, they knew that this particular fungus needed light as part of its life cycle.
These fungi don't use light for photosynthesis. Instead, the light is a signal that triggers the growth of the fruiting body.
So they asked themselves, do these ants die sort of randomly, or do they go to well-lit places to climb a stalk and die, thus enhancing the fungus's chance of reproduction? So they did a simple experiment. They found an area of the forest floor, depicted here, that they would call an ant graveyard. These are where they would find lots of ants that had climbed up stalks, latched on, and died. And they took part of the area and covered it in a tarp. This tarp shaded the plant stalks below, but allowed airflow to go underneath, keeping the temperature and the humidity about the same. Then, over a period of 6 months, they went out and counted the ants that climbed up various stalks and died there. 6 months, that's a lot of ant counting. Hats off to you folks. And what they found was that more ants climbed up and died on the stalks that were well lit than died in the stalks underneath the tarp. This suggests that the fungus is directing the ants' behavior, causing them to climb up stalks in well-lit areas, thus helping the fungus to promote its life cycle. Currently, their research is progressing to look at things like how high the ants climb, or if some of them even choose to climb underneath the moss on the forest floor to prevent them being eaten from predators that aren't part of the fungus's life cycle.
When you consider that the fungus doesn't have a central nervous system, let alone a brain, it's amazing how sophisticated its mind control over the ant can be.
So this is interesting research in and of itself, but is it important? Yes, because all of us are covered in fungus. Sorry to break it to you. You have fungus on your skin, you have fungus in your guts. And these fungi are secreting chemicals that enter your bodies. We know that such chemicals can affect our bodies and our minds. You may know that magic mushrooms secrete psilocybin that, when ingested, causes hallucinations. There are well-documented historic accounts of entire groups of people in the Middle Ages eating bread from rye that had gone off a little bit because it had been infected with a fungus called ergot. This produces the biochemical predecessor to LSD.
Ergot is another parasitic fungus, and the cocktail of chemicals it releases also causes vasoconstriction, leading to gangrene, as well as convulsions and intense burning pain. Ergot poisoning became therefore known as holy fire.
So you'd have whole groups of middle-agers tripping out. When your worldview is based on angels and demons, this can lead to some pretty drastic thinking. So any information that we can gather on how fungal secretions interact with our mind is important toward understanding our mind's physiology and also may help us to develop better medicines in the future.
Scientists are researching the compounds released by Ophiocordyceps for potential anti-cancer and antibiotic uses. But what about the chances of Ophiocordyceps infecting humans? Well, physiology of ants is vastly different to humans, so it seems unlikely. But there are parasitic fungi that do infect humans, such as Aspergillus that causes pneumonia. And scientists believe there are over 2 million more species of fungi yet to be discovered. So, who knows what we'll find?
Until next time, remember that between the question and the answer are all the really tasty bits. I don't know who this person is. You don't know.
Pedro Pascal, like the most famous Hollywood actor at the moment, who's in everything.
Pedro Pascal apparently is somebody I should know. Oh, feeling a bit fungusy. Where's Pedro Pascal when I need him?